Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Bang on Sales show. Man, it's been a while, but I wanted to kick this new batch of episodes off with a high, basically. I almost said like start with a bang, but that's just cringe. So let's just say start on a high with my good friend Henry Clayton. How you doing, Henry?
All good, thank you, Mark. How about yourself?
I'm good. Yeah, I'm good. I'm good. I woke up with a banging headache today, but other than that, I'm happy. So good. I'm
Hopefully,
excited for this one.
it ease the headache.
Yeah. Yeah, your dulcet tones will help me through, I'm sure. And I've actually been looking forward to this one, like genuinely, because I know that we are probably on the same page with a lot of stuff. So I'm hoping this doesn't turn into too much of an echo chamber. But I think today we're probably going to talk about, what are we talking about? Prospecting of various shapes and sizes. Your life, I guess, as an SDR and whatnot. And I'm really keen to hear like your overall, I guess, thought process, approach, philosophy when it comes to just the bigger picture of prospecting as well, how you see things. But to kick things off, do you want to like tell us about yourself? Bit of an intro.
Yeah. So I'm Henry Clayton, as Mark's already shared. I'm a principal SDR at Allego. I have been at Allego for 3.5 years now. So yeah, quite a long time. Allego is my first sales role. I'm still learning each and every day. I'm really excited at the way tech sales is going and the way it's moving. It's moving at a really fast pace. There's loads of moving parts, but it's a really exciting space to be in. And I'm really looking forward to how the year plays out and yeah, what's next for me. So yeah.
What Henry hasn't shared there is because he's quite humble, is that he's barely worked more than like 3 consecutive days this month, but he's still on like some stupid. What are you on? Like, I don't know if you don't have to share if you don't want to, but you're.
No, I'm 140% to target, and I think I've not worked a full week in 5 weeks, which is good. You know, there's some
that's
things.
Not a one-off.
What's that? Sorry.
Having worked with you, I know that's not a one-off either.
No, and it's not luck by any stretch of the means, but it's a good spot to be in because I can take annual leave now, and I think that's one of the biggest thoughts from salespeople. Biggest problems is they're always scared to take annual leave and give themselves a rest. And I feel so recharged now going into this week and moving into June, which is notoriously going to be a bit more of a difficult month. Now we're leading into the summer period, but I feel like I'm on top of the game and well rested. So taking annual leave is not a bad thing.
Yeah, it's hard. Like I've had it before with, your managers like, don't worry about it. It's all good. Like you need to take time off, switch off. Don't look at your emails. Don't open your laptop. But you can't not, right? You just don't know if something's going to be sitting there waiting. And but so that might be a nice segue actually into, like you said, it's not luck. That, like, maybe we can pick this off by talking about, like, tell us this is a very broad one, but like what's your thought process, approach? Do you have what you could define as like a mentality, a philosophy, something that you take to prospecting, or is it just mud and wall? Like, what does that look like?
I think, yeah, I do. And yes, activity is a big point. Knowing your numbers, knowing how many calls it takes me to have a connection, how many of those connections do I need to have before I have a proper conversation, boil that down into how many proper conversations do I need to have before I book a meeting. So I know that I need to make around 75 calls before I book a meeting because of all my numbers. So I know that aspect. Email, I don't spend a huge amount of time on. Lots of MQLs, stuff like that, and a bit of multi-threading, and a bit of, if they don't have a number, I'll put them in an email LinkedIn sequence. I do a lot of prospecting via LinkedIn, but I think that one of the big things that I can take from how I prospect on LinkedIn and how I prospect via email is something that I learned from a good friend of Chris Russell, an ex-colleague of both of ours. of not looking to always just sell. Be that consultative person, be that person to provide a bit of value. And I think now with how saturated inboxes are, how saturated LinkedIn is, I think if you lead with value and lead with a consultative approach and be that person of awareness, posting content, drip feed around your business. If you ever look at my LinkedIn, I don't post a lot of Allego content because I don't want to, because I want to drip feed it into something that I do. I think the last Allego content I posted outside of events was me playing cricket, but it leaned into how I use the Allego platform to learn new skills, right? So I make it more fun, not look at this new product release that everybody in your company's posted and you're just reposting it. I just find that kind of content a bit boring. But yeah,
of course.
To round off my point, like I booked 4 meetings last week where I didn't outbound to a single person and I hadn't spoken to any of them in over a month. They all come through to me. Not inbound through the platform, not an inbound demo, 3 messages on LinkedIn and an email. And it's like, when it works like that, because I've been speaking to them, I've been sharing content, said, I've seen your post, you mentioned about struggling to get return on investment in sales enablement. Here's a sales enablement report. It's just little things like that. And they remember what I do, remember what Allego does. And yeah, ask me questions on, do you do this? I'm like, yeah. Can we have a demo? Yeah, of course we can. So it does sound easy when it's like that. But it's a hard thing to remember of not to always just sell to people. Don't always ask for a meeting. Know when to bite your tongue, basically. But yeah, cut a long story short, that's kind of the process.
Yeah, that's cool. When it sounds like there's a lot of groundwork that goes in on a relationship level, or like an individual level with people. Like if we just take LinkedIn as the example, what does that look like from like to, you're growing your network, you're adding people essentially. You find someone who you think might be a good target. What does that look like from the start? Like you connect with that person, but obviously there's going to be a lag. But they're not necessarily going to be in market. The chances are they won't be right immediately. So what does that look like in terms of you connect, build that relationship? Like you've kind of alluded to it, but from the start, like
it's really difficult because some people are very active on LinkedIn, some people are lurkers. When they're active, it's a lot easier. When they post regularly, especially in the space of enablement, enablers will mainly post about enablement-like posts. Whether they be hiring, whether they be talking about their sales kickoff, different bits and bobs. Your job's a lot easier when you do that because you like, you comment, you provide a bit of value in the comment section. You don't just go, great post, Mark. I know it's a great post. I wrote it.
LFG, rocket ship, fire emoji.
Yeah, like give me a rocket ship. Like no. Provide a bit of value. Provide an opinion. Like especially when it comes to something that matters to them or something that they've done. Make it so you ask a question. You can go, have you ever thought about doing this? Or what would happen if this was taken away? And then that conversation can then bleed into direct messages. It's also a segue to, like, I do a few events in a year. I met loads of people in enablement at an event I did in London back in December. One of the guys that I booked last week sent me a voice note out the blue. Haven't spoken to him really since then. But we said next time we're at an event together, we're gonna eat hot wings and drink beers. So like you can do all the groundwork, but like I love a face-to-face conversation. If you get a chance to meet people at events, especially in your ICP, that does wonders for you in terms of I can just message him and ask a question and it helps me with things like messaging and stuff like that. Like I'll always ask enablers I'm friendly with, if I said this to you in terms of 2 problems to lead with, would those be problems that are relevant to you? And they'd go, not right now, but I could see how, because we use X, Y, Z. But
Yeah.
I could see how it would be relevant to the rest of the enablement world. Then there you go. You've crowdsourced some insight from your ICP to help shape your messaging. You know that it's probably going to hit home quite well.
I can see how like personality is such a big aspect, big element of this as well. Because I don't know, it's like your character is like you're just being personable and social, right? I think most of us know that, like we understand this at this point, like well, I'd like to think most of us do, that you can't just go in and just pitch slap people. It's obvious at this point, right? But there's a way to do it, and I think you seem to have mastered that. And I don't know if is it something that everyone can do? Can everyone crack that? Because I just feel like, and again, having worked with you, like I know that you can, whether it's at an event live or it's commenting on a post or whatever. I've seen some of the videos, prospecting videos and voice notes that you've done and stuff, and it's just a way in your delivery that isn't like there's not the word, like it's not cringy, you know, it's not obviously just a thinly veiled pitch.
And that's exactly the point, right? I love a mistake because I'm human, right? And in a world where we're drowned out by AI at the minute, like if you open up your emails at the minute, like you started your business how long ago, Mark? Like what, 5 weeks ago, 6 weeks ago?
Yeah.
How many prospecting emails do you get now that you see that are like written by AI, or messages on LinkedIn because you're now a co-founder of a business, and you can just look at that and go, that's just automated or AI, like what's the point? And I think in a world where everything is fine-tuned, everything is perfect, show that you're human. Like if I fumble over my words in a prospecting video, fine, leave it in, send it. Never watch one back unless I have like a complete meltdown in my brain where I'm silent for like 10 seconds. I'll send every video and I don't watch them back, because I'd compare myself to a video that I've seen another person do on LinkedIn, and also like in a follow-up, if I've said something by accident or fumbled over my words, I'd include it in my follow-up. Humans like to look at mistakes from other people. That's a natural thing that humans like to do. They like to call out mistakes. Like you get people that have got maybe bad grammar and people will call it out, like because you're using the wrong there. And it's just the same in like a prospecting video or anything like that. Like, so I just say, just don't focus on being polished and perfect. Have the right value prop. Be yourself, have a bit of personality, and give something back in terms of value.
Yeah, it's cool. It's like just chill. Like don't take yourself so seriously.
Yeah.
I need to be better at that. I know I do. Like I do. Like even the thing about watching, if you do a video, watching it back, I do it. And then if you do that, you're gonna find something that you don't like, and you're gonna do like 12 weeks to get it right. And to get it right, you know.
And I'll set I know that I commented on Morgan Ingram's post about video prospecting yesterday, and he asked me what my numbers are. And I know I'll get a response for every 6 LinkedIn prospecting videos that I send, whether it be when I send it or in the follow-up. So I have a conversation 1 in 6 times. So when I block it out in my calendar of me doing video prospecting, it's video prospecting times 6. And I've sit there and I've timed myself. How long does it take to record, find the information about them and send, and then move on to the next one. Yeah. How many videos can I get done in half an hour? So it's about 6. So I know when I do video prospecting, 6 videos will give me a conversation. So it all boils back as well to continually knowing your numbers on everything. That's what's helped me.
Right. That's cool. Just to get a bit more tactical here, something that, you know, people can action if they're watching or listening to this, something that I can clip up for a nice little LinkedIn post, maybe. Video. How do you structure it? Like, how long is too long? what's like in terms of messaging? How do you structure it? Do you have a structure that you apply to it, like a like a kind of script, like a framework, or what does that look like?
Yeah, kind of like a script, kind of like a framework. I always want to lead with value, right? It helps. Again, like imagine if you're an enablement leader, sales enablement leader at a say 1,000 employee business that have seen amazing growth in the past 3 months or 6 months, hiring like 20% increase in the sales team. So a fair old chunk. I know that onboarding is going to be a massive part of what you're thinking about. And enablers anyway have got a big focus on how do I prove a return on investment. So I know that probably my messaging is going to center around that. I'm going to mention that, hey, Mark, I noticed that you've taken on Sean and John in the last 3 months to be SDRs to see like 15% growth in your sales team in the past 3 months. And then I'd say something along the lines of, your peers have mentioned in a recent report that we've surfaced. So I reference State of Sales Enablement report or something, a piece of content maybe that I can send them. And then I'll share what they've said. I'll then share briefly like how we eradicate that problem or solve that problem. And then my CTA is, let me know if you want me to send over a copy of the report if this is top of mind for you. Don't ask for time. Don't ask for like, are you free at 3 p.m. next week to meet? Like, it is, do you want me to send over a copy of the report? Because of the platform that I sell, that I send over a copy of the report, I can see when they view the report. I can see how many times they viewed the report. Okay, it's just the most easy segue into a follow-up. Like, hey, Mark, I noticed that you checked this out a couple of times yesterday. Anything on your mind?
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I can see how that I can see how that also plays into like if they're maybe not responsive straight away after you've sent that, maybe the timing's not quite right, they've got too much on their plate. I can see how it's like a pull versus a push approach, and why you'll then say, like you said last week, you're getting a few people that are actually coming back to you, almost as not in, but they're not inbounds, are they? But you know what I mean? They're you're pulling them towards you over time. I suppose you're building up enough of these that you're inevitably going to have a couple that just drop in from time to time.
Yeah, and I think as like an SDR, you know when you book a meeting that not all of them are going to go to stage one, not all of them are going to move further down the pipeline. Timing might not be right. Somebody might say about budget and actually be telling the truth for once, that they don't have any, because I think that's the most common objection anyone ever hears. Or things might get closed due to no decision. As an SDR, my prerogative and my need and desire to keep on top of that person until they're ready to have a chat again and ready to sit down again, whether that be sending content, nurturing them, just having a conversation with them, asking like what things they're focusing on at the minute. That I can rebook people like 2-3 times a year, which would be really like probably twice a year conceivably. But yeah, like that's the best ones, the recurring ones that you don't have to do too much lift for, and you're probably 50% sure you're going to get a response out of them. As an SDR, like you're responded to under 5% of the time, probably even less. If you think about how many calls you make versus how many people pick up.
How many, or rather, no, how are you organized? Like, how do you organize that? Because I can imagine you've got dozens of people that are in different stages and whatnot. Your LinkedIn inbox must be like, yeah. How do you?
Yeah. If LinkedIn could actually improve the way inboxes are laid out, then perfect. I need to try this tool called Condo, which is about inbox management, but that's a separate thing. If they want to do a brand deal, hit me up. Cheers. But give me free access. That'd be lovely. But no, I have this thing in Outreach, a sequence that I use, which is a 3-month email sequence, but it's not a 3-month email sequence. It's just when I put a prospect in there to reach back out to, instead of me put it in my calendar, I'll start a LinkedIn conversation and then I'll move them into Outreach and put them in this sequence. This sequence doesn't start. So I put them in the sequence and then 3 months later, that's when the first step's due. So if I know it's 6 months, I'll just
Okay.
I'll just go in, check the conversation that I've had previously. Have I spoke to them between now and then? And then, yeah, just if I need to extend it, extend it. If I need to reach out, reach out. I found 3 months as a sweet spot because it's a quarter. So people
Yeah.
go, try me next quarter. So I just figured that 3 months was probably about the sweet spot for people.
Makes sense. Yeah. So Trellis has Trellis is a dialer, but they have a thing called Superhuman for LinkedIn as well, which is kind of like inbox like management essentially.
Oh.
I haven't used it too much, but it's pretty cool. It also has a feature for pre-recorded voice notes. It's not, it's not ideal. It's probably not the sort of thing that you would do, but if there was a kind of a more cookie cutter message you wanted to send out, then you could do that. But
Yeah,
of course, here at our show, we do not condone any form of automation or unauthorized integrations or APIs into LinkedIn. So
yeah, I was going to say I won't mention the tools that I'm aware of, haven't used, but seen in action around like voice note automation. So I used to be a big advocate of voice notes, and then I discovered all these tools, and I'm more video heavy than I am voice note now, which I definitely wasn't last year. Voice notes were far easier. And less of a lift in sending it.
Yeah, you don't have to shave and sort your hair out. And
I don't do that anyway. I'll do videos when like Chris Russell taught me like to be imperfect in the sense of if I want to go for a walk on a lunchtime, I'll load up 4 or 5 different scripts on like a little teleprompter app thing that I've got on my phone, so I know roughly what I'm speaking about. Just so I can be a bit personalized and be a bit relevant. Write the scripts, send them to myself on Slack, copy and paste them into that, walk around a field in the middle of Somerset, and yeah, record a prospecting video.
Last time I did that, bearing in mind I'm up in Scotland, last time I did that, I thought there's a little car park up on one of the hills. I thought, you know what, I'll drive up there and I'll just have a little stroll and do some video. Absolutely bombarded with these nasty black flies, like not the usual Scottish midges, but like proper like horse flies or whatever they're called. So I'm walking along and it's taking me like 20 takes just to do one video because I'm literally getting like pinpricked by these flies. So yeah, wasn't a very successful prospecting session.
Well, you could definitely make fun of that and just say that not only do you not want me to prospect you, but these flies are attacking me, stopping me saying the reason why I'm in your inbox, sending you a video. But then that's like, I'd take advantage of that. That's me. I'd go, right, that'll be funny.
Yeah. Very good point. Interesting. Where do we go from here? So we've done video. We've done talk to me a bit about obviously you touched on cold calling, and I think 75 dials to get a meeting on a consistent basis, that's pretty decent from what I've seen. What do you put that down to? Because I know like I don't want to kind of lead the witness, so to speak, with the question here, but like I think like it all starts with the list, doesn't it? The list that you're calling has to be good. But yeah, what do you think?
Yeah, I think the list is so important of having the right prospects in. I get it when you see a lot of people talk about onboarding new starters and they're like, get the conversations in the bank, and I'm there. It's one of those where I agree and disagree. Yes, talking to people, brilliant. But if they're not directly your ICP, you kind of breed the wrong behavior, which is why things like AI, dialogue simulators and stuff like we use here at Allego, part of our platform, shameless plug, but part of that is really, really good because it's your ICP. Yes, it's a bit tougher than ringing a normal human being, but you can change it for new starters a bit more easier rather than ringing someone that is a sales manager, doesn't hold any power, doesn't hold any weight. I really need to be speaking to the VP of sales. Am I getting value out of this conversation as a new starter? Probably not. And I think like getting that list on point, speaking to the right people in your ICP and just being coached, coached as much as possible. I used to dislike coaching because I come from a background where I think I had 2 calls coached in about 4 years when taking escalator calls in a contact center, and it was I had all manner of stuff said to me each and every day, which was abhorrent. But at the start of that, I wanted to be coached on how could I approach this better, and then it never happened. So when I come to Allego, where there's a massive coaching culture, my back is up straight away. But until I figured out that coaching actually helps me rather than hinders me, that helped me become a lot better at cold calling. So yeah, that's kind of my approach of like, you've got to get your list right. Otherwise you're just ringing duds, really. And I think they're just pointless conversations.
It's the whole thing of what's that?
I said kind of, like, obviously you can get a referral, but if you're new, speak to your ICP.
It seems to, with everything you're talking about here, is like, you know, sharpening the axe before you cut down the tree, right? Spending most of the time in the prep work, and this segues nicely into, like, I know we were going to talk about mindset. That's part of it, isn't it? Is like, I've been in roles as an IC before, either as well, back in the day, we wouldn't have called them SDRs. It would have been telemarketing or telesales executives, but either that or as a full cycle, like AE or BDM. And you always feel, and might be my own personal hang up, but in some of those jobs, I've felt a bit of pressure where, like, I need to be doing something. Like, I know I need to be sharpening my axe, so to speak, but I also need to show that I'm leaving some dents in the tree at the same time, like short-term, some activity. And I think that that's actually caused a bit of a compromise in the quality of what I was doing. So what am I trying to say here? It's like when you're talking to your ICP, you know, like, let's say I don't know, like, you're trying to hit a new persona or a new industry, or you're just a new starter. Is part of it as well, like, not being afraid to speak to your ICP, but going in with the mindset of, like, I just want to learn from these people as well.
Yeah.
Because that's going to feed back into informing what my messaging needs to be, how I communicate that, and so on. Yeah. And that's part of sharpening the axe, is not just building the list, but it's actually, when you are talking to these people, it goes back to stop trying to sell so much and just try to understand these people. What kind of language are they using? Ask them quite explicitly, like, does this stuff resonate with you? But yeah, there's a question in there for you somewhere. I'll let you figure that one out.
Yeah. I think, like, when it's asking the right questions, right? So like, take for example, when you're new and you're speaking to your ICP. I remember when I started, and if I led with 2 problems and they didn't resonate, I'm like, all right, no worries, have a good day. Like, almost like that, not totally that bad, but it's almost like, so those 2 problems didn't resonate. And it's then layering on, like, what questions can you ask to uncover pain? How can you find out what's top of mind for them? How can you reframe and rephrase what you're trying to say? Or if they say, Mark, what is it you do? That's probably, when you're cold calling, that's a salesperson's worst nightmare. Before you've even managed to get into what the bulk of what you're trying to say, before you've even spoken about a problem that they might be facing, what does Allego do? Horrible question. But how do you answer it? And over time, you talk about sharpening the axe. Things become a lot easier because it's all muscle memory. So I go, for me to have a successful conversation, I probably need to ask this question or position it in this way. Or when they say, how does this work? I tell a story. Like, imagine I'm one of your reps. I put it in their shoes. Imagine I'm one of your reps and you've adopted Allego. This is how X, Y, Z would work, because you put it in their thought process. Would I have done? Was I taught that in the first 6 months? Yes. Did I do much of it? No. because I'm still sharpening that axe and I'm still learning from other people. And where do I ask these right questions? So I don't know if that's answered your somewhat slightly vague question.
Yeah, no, it's helpful. Yeah, I think we've probably exhausted that. But I like the idea of framing things in terms of stories as well. Like, imagine I'm one of your reps. I can sit at my desk in the morning, log into Allego, and I've got, everything I need to learn blah, 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 or to do this or that or whatever. Whereas before I would have struggled because now it's, get it.
Yeah.
It's cool. Conscious of time, I know we're coming up to the top of the hour here. Talk to me about books, podcasts, any recommendations, like what's influenced you, what's helped you?
Books, I can't speak highly enough of problem prospecting. That is like from an SDR perspective, that was written I'm pretty sure that was that Rich, Mark and Stu wrote that during COVID. I'm pretty confident, or just after. Do you think that book's 4 or 5 years old? The principles of being a good SDR and a good salesperson, base it off that. I'm only 2 chapters into Mark and Rich's new one of Deconstructing Discovery, because I've been a bit slack in reading books because all I've done is play cricket and try and be outside and touch grass.
Next to me for a while.
From a podcast perspective, I do like their podcast. I used to be crap at sales. I also like the guys from We Have a Meeting, Jack Frimston, Zach Thompson. They do a little bit with Dealfront as well. So they've got their main podcast where they speak about bits and bobs. They've got little like 7-minute, 8-minute topics. They've done some bits in the past themselves where they're like talks from the trenches. And I think they're really, really good because it's just like bite-size learning. Like that's how a lot of people consume content, and everything's like TikTok and let's do a minute worth of scrolling, 7 minutes to learn a new skill, excuse me, or how to very good salespeople would handle objections. Like it's worth its weight in gold.
Yeah. I mean, on like problem prospecting is just standard. Like that's a must read for anybody in our line of work, right? And we've worked with Rich, with Stu. I presume you pretty worked with Mark. That was before my time at Allego, but but having actually lived that rather than just reading the book, it's like I can't imagine doing it any other way now. And like the podcast name, like I used to be crap at sales.
Yeah,
that is what it makes you realize.
I
was leading with, and everything you've been saying is like such a far cry from how I did things for most of my career, which is like, hi, I'm Mark from ABC Limited. We do this and that, and it's like all you're doing is just trying to fish for people that are currently in market in the hope that they're like, you've called at the perfect time,
And I also think it's mad how, like, now my thought process is, how do people not lead with problems on a call? Why do people go, hope you find this email well? What? Just I don't understand there seems to be such a divide of throw as much shit at a wall and see what sticks. Pardon my French. And then people that are probably in a similar boat to ourselves. Yes, I want to be high on activity metrics, but it's calculated activity. Like there's a reason why I'm doing X amount of activity, and there's like I don't have too many automated follow-ups unless it's content or a bump email or an end of sequence email. I don't have too much automation in terms of automatic emails that get sent out. Whereas people will put a prospect through a 15-step email sequence, every single thing automated. And I just think, how can you do it that way? But they do it that way because they put 1,000 people through that sequence in a given week, and they'll be lucky to book 1 or 2 meetings, and they'll see that as success. And that's the narrative that needs to change. If everybody read problem prospecting, sales would be a lot better world.
I mean, that approach is so outdated that it's at a point where it's like, how, I'm thinking, okay, sales leadership needs to show to SLT a certain level of activity metrics, KPIs that they can then demonstrate, I guess, to investors maybe. It's just such a silly way of doing things though. To the point like it's so outdated. I can't even believe that it's so widespread now.
Yeah.
I think also as well, like, so there's the volume bit that you're talking about. There's the messaging part as well, like you said about, I hope this email finds you well. I think that's less common nowadays, probably because those people that were saying that are just using AI now, and ChatGPT doesn't say it as much. But
no,
I think there's a certain demeanor that comes with experience and just time being calloused, and like time, I think in the trenches is a silly way of saying it, but like I've noticed that the more junior salespeople that I speak to, they're more, yes, sir, no, sir, 3 bags full, sir. They're more subservient and more, they want to please, and they're upright, positive, smile all the time. And it's hard because I've been that guy, and it plays into how you communicate and not being willing to ask the hard questions and all of that stuff, doesn't it? So do you think that's something that's evolved for you over time, or were you always such a arrogant now? we always
yeah, like I would be so honest, I was crap in my first year. Like my first year at Allego, right, and touch wood, thanks for them for sticking with me, because hopefully I've repaid the faith. But I was crap in my first year because I was so green, didn't know sales. I was like a very, very junior sales rep. No, Allego was my first SDR role. Didn't have much of a fear of the phone because I worked in a contact center where it's purely inbound. So I'm just getting past escalated calls left, right, and center. So I didn't have too much of a fear, but it's just how do I do the job? Like I'm competing. I feel like I'm competing against all these SDRs, but people are trying to help me. But I'm there like, am I not in a competition? Am I this? And I think the way I perceived sales was entirely wrong, because that instant gratification, I think that's what people are so used to getting. And I was used to getting that before because I hadn't experienced radio silence / rejection in that way before. Sales can be a very, very, very lonely place to be, especially when you're an SDR. People say it's one of the hardest jobs to do in that sales function setup, because you're faced with the most amount of rejection. As an AE, yes, you're going to get ghosted a few times. People are not going to respond to you, but as an SDR, constantly, you're hammering the phones, hammering activity. You can get something where, I love your outreach, but I've moved to another business, or I'm starting my own thing. They're not in your ICP anymore, and you just go like, cut me some slack. And then say like the meetings roll in, that instant gratification, as you can't. I struggle to find a way to describe like how in any way, shape, or form of life where you get that instant gratification. Like, it's so unusual. As an AE, you can sit there through 9 months of calls and be told at the end, when you've got a toss up between you and a competitor, whether you've won the deal or lost the deal. So it's very delayed gratification. An SDR, I make a 5-minute cold call, I can book a meeting. That's so instantaneous. Like, I did a post today about treating myself when I book a meeting, because I almost need that in my mind to ground me. I don't know if that makes sense, but to go, don't get so excited. You've booked a meeting, hasn't sat yet, hasn't moved to stage 1, hasn't moved further down the pipeline. On the face of it, it looks a good fit, but you don't know.
Yeah.
They said all the right things, but is it even going to equate to you getting commission? So I kind of buy myself like something small that costs me just a couple of quid, because yes, if it does sit, brilliant. Like, I've only spent a couple of quid to earn X amount. But if it doesn't sit, there's not much wasted. But I've treated myself in some way to not get me so excited, which is a weird.
That's awesome. But it's funny, like I know like the ups and downs of it as well. Like you can have a terrible like week, and then on a Friday afternoon, you somehow you pull like 3 meetings out of the bag.
Yeah.
Part of it as well, isn't it? Is just staying the course, trusting the process. And,
trust the process. Yeah, I booked one meeting this week, and I have only worked a day and a bit, but I've only booked one meeting this week. I want to go into every week where I'm booking 3, 4, 5. And deep down in a competitive sense, I don't want anyone else to book more meetings than me in a week. I'm there to be shot at. Like,
yeah, I suppose at this point, what are we on the 29th of the month? Mr. 140% of target is just a sound right now, isn't it?
Well, you've got a book for next month. That's what's helped me.
Yeah,
I think in the last 20 months or something, I've only missed target once. And the only time I missed target was because I had no meetings in the bank leading into the month after.
Can you just say that again?
So,
say that.
So in the last 20 months,
20 months.
Last 20 months, I've missed target once. And that's only because I basically took the whole of July off pretty much. And I went into August with no meetings, nothing scheduled. And I've gone into probably one of the harder months of the year with no meetings in the bank. Not prepped, no nothing. I've gone in there blank slate, and I've got to try and get X amount. And that's the only time I've missed target in 20 months. But yeah, so I think like...
And I might add, for anybody who's watching this, and we'll bring us to a close in a second, that's missing target once in 20 months, selling... And Henry's not selling a really well-known brand with millions of marketing budget behind him. As you know, you see these people on LinkedIn, they're all puffing their chests out like, oh yeah, I've hit like a bajillion% of target this quarter, and they're selling. So like, it's got to be so easy to sell, or relatively easy to sell something that's, there's massive demand. It's a household name. That's not what Henry's selling, and he's still consistently outperformed his peers in the business over and over and over again. So like I don't want to be blowing smoke up your ass here, Henry, but like that genuinely, that's impressive. And I've seen you how you do it, and I know everything you're saying is there's you have the utmost credibility. So kudos. Without being too much of a brown nose to you, but kudos.
Like, I'm as humble as the next person. Like, yes, I if you go talk about your achievements, fine, I'm happy to, but I'd rather share a bit of insight into what I do. And if someone can become a 10% better salesperson by taking a little thing of what I say, then brilliant. Like, that's my job done.
No, that's awesome. So before we wrap things up, is there anything else you wanted to share? Any wise words?
No, I think like the SDR role is hard. There's no like, this job is hard. There's days, I'm not saying that I jump out of bed every morning and I'm ready to just rip dials and send loads of videos on LinkedIn. Mindset is a massive thing. And I think if you can understand your numbers, understand your own mindset, and kind of outside of money, what you do in this job for, how can I get better? And how can I deal with 95% at least of what I'm doing outreach wise being radio silence or rejection? If you can deal with that, like, the cliche is every no is one step closer to a yes, but it's so damn true. Like, don't be hung up if you've had a crap week and you finished on a donut, like, because you could have the best week of your life the week after. You genuinely don't know what's around the corner in sales, and I think that's what makes it so exciting. And once you have that mindset, it's far much more fun. You enjoy your job a lot more, and it's a lot easier to earn money. So yeah, that's all I'd say.
Yeah, and just to add to that, you don't know what's around the corner. Like, there could be something great around the corner, but you have to be diligently, consistently laying down the groundwork for that to actually happen, right? There needs to be a platform you'll build it, whether that's sharpening your axe, whatever. Like, you need to be doing the activity for it to pay dividends down the line. So yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. Awesome. Thank you, Henry. Right, I'm going to say something that I've actually forgotten to do on the previous 26 episodes of this or something, because if you're watching this on YouTube, please comment, like, subscribe. Even if it's commenting to disagree with something we've said here, have a go at us, whatever, it all helps feed
Give me abuse.
Exactly. But no, thanks, Henry. It's always a pleasure. And thanks everyone for watching and listening. Cheers.
Thank you.